MixedTV.tv presents the Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Join us as we look at the upcoming 2022 season and share in-depth interviews with coaches and players.
Welcome to our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights, sponsored by Life Care Centers of America. Our first spotlight will be Silverdale Baptist Academy's football team. Silverdale athletics are driven by Mountain View Nissan. Jumping right in, last season, Silverdale went 9-3, making the playoffs and losing in the second round to eventual state champions Lipscomb Academy. But before we hop into this season and talk to head coach Mike Connor, we're going to run through some history about Silverdale Baptist Academy. Their first season was in 2005, so they're coming up on their 18th season in school history. All time, they have an 88-93 record, which gives them a 49% winning percentage. They've never won a state title, and they have never advanced past the third round of the playoffs. All time in district and region play, they are 29-57, and they're looking for their 7th winning season this year. We mentioned they did go to the playoffs. They went 1-1 in the playoffs, winning in the first round and losing in the second round. That was their 8th playoff appearance. They are 4-8 all time in the playoffs. Last season, it was a big offensive season for Silverdale, led by Connor DeLashmuth, the running back, who's surpassed over 6,000 all-purpose yards for Silverdale Baptist Academy. Also, Turner Junkins at wide receiver and Brett Rogers at quarterback made that offense click. DeLashmuth is a senior who has graduated and is going on to the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, but Rogers and Junkins still remain on this loaded offense. Last season, they scored their second most points in school history, scoring 420 points. They opened last season with a 6-game win streak, which is their longest win streak since they won 9 in a row in 2013. Last season, believe it or not, was their first 9-win season ever in school history. They had one season where they won 10 and one where they won 11. Last season were their most district wins in school history, as they went 4-2 in district play. Also, last season I mentioned, they made it to the second round of the playoffs for the 3rd time ever. They are under head coach Mike Connor, who you will hear from later. He is starting his 3rd season. He has a 14-9 record overall. Moving on into their schedule for the upcoming season, they will open against East Ridge, who they beat last year, and they are 1-2 all time against East Ridge. They'll follow that by traveling to Franklin Road Academy, who they beat last year in their first ever meeting against that school. They will then travel to CCS, who they shockingly upset last year to begin their season with, and they are 4-7 all time against CCS. Then they will host Lakeway Christian Academy for the first meeting ever between these two schools. They'll follow that up by playing their rivals Boyd Buchanan at home. They took a win against Boyd Buchanan in a thriller last year. They are 3-10 all time against Boyd. Then they will travel to state champions, Donaldson Christian Academy, who they did beat in the regular season last year for their first ever win against that school. They are 1-2 all time. They will also travel to Notre Dame the week after that, who they took a win from last year and are one of the only schools that Silverdale has a winning record against, as they are 3-2 against them. They'll follow that up by hosting Webb, who Silverdale has never beat and was one of their 3 losses last year. Then they will have a bye week, a very late bye week in the season coming on October 14th before they travel to Grace Christian Academy, who they beat last year for their first win against them ever. They are 1-6 all time, and they will close out their season on October 28th hosting the Christian Academy of Knoxville, CAK, who they lost to last year and are 1-4 all time. A lot of buzz around Silverdale. They had a great season last year, high-scoring offense. Head coach Mike Connor has Silverdale doing all the right things, and we are going to send it over to Silverdale to speak with him about his team's success and how they're preparing for this season. We are here at Silverdale Baptist Academy, joined by head football coach Mike Connor. Coach, jumping right in, last season, the school's winningest season since 2013, and your winningest season here. What does a season like that do for just the culture of this program?
Well, it brings in a new norm. So, for so long, especially all the kids that were in the program up until last year, they've never experienced that. And so, 9-3, the reason we were 9-3 is because we had 9-3 behavior. So we basically set a standard for a new normal. And so now the challenge is turning the page and saying, okay, 9-3, those behaviors got us that. We want to be better than that. So we got to change our behaviors even more.
So talking about some of those guys that have come through this program, Connor DeLashment, among some of the other seniors you lost last year, 5,000 all-purpose yards in his career. What does a player like that do for a program like this through his 4 years here?
Yeah, he is actually over 6,000 all-purpose yards. Look, Connor, Clay Connor, Cam Mullins, as well as Turner Junkins. Turner's still with us, but probably won't play as much on offense. That was about 85% of our offense. And so that's the impact that those guys, those seniors that we graduated had on our team. So there's a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah. So you talk about some of those holes. Who are some players you're looking at or we should expect to step up and be playmakers this year for you guys?
Yeah, I think Cam Bowen, he'll play the wide out. He's gonna, he has the opportunity to have a phenomenal year. A couple of rising juniors and Nate Hampton, Caleb Greco. Those guys have opportunities to shine. Brett Rogers is returning. He was the first-year starter last year, had a phenomenal season. Brett Rogers will not be a surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
And so he's got to deal with the expectation of everybody knows about Brett Rogers. Yeah. And so, our offensive line's returning. They're all starters, 2-year starters, so a lot of strength up front, but they don't have Connor DeLashment.
Yeah.
DeLashment made them right a lot. Yeah. And so those are guys who are going to have the opportunity to step up in ways and add value to our team that they didn't in the past.
So you're talking about the expectations Brett has this year, but it feels like last year as a team you kind of came in as the underdogs. But now you talk about that 9-3 culture. How is this squad dealing with the outside expectations of, hey, we got to go and do better than we did last year?
Well, that's the challenge. We live in a culture holistically, when you talk about the culture that we live in, that just would rather be average.
Yeah.
And they don't want to push themselves. And so that's the fight. Do we want to be what we describe as the top 10, or are we just going to be satisfied? And so it is a struggle. It's a struggle for us every day. It's a struggle for our individual players, and obviously it's a struggle for our corporate team. So, but in the long run, it's just a decision. Yeah. I'm just not going to settle for less than my best.
So we were talking earlier how we're not far from after dead period. We're still early in the summer, but how do you feel like the preparation has been for this upcoming season so far?
Well, this year, in terms of our evaluation and what we thought we needed to do and to continue to improve, we've been able to hire a full staff for the first time since I've been here. That's going to add value in terms of development of our players. That should help us with depth. So those our strength program, we got that new facility. We're in it. We've been in it for a year. All those things should factor in to us being, better than we were last year.
So lastly, talking about being better than you were last year, what are your expectations for this team as a whole this year?
That's a trick question, really. My expectation is that we come out and we play at each of our players have embraced the idea that they're going to be the best version of themselves. And if we can do that corporately and get everybody in alignment, we have a chance to repeat and even improve on what we did last year. So that's my expectation.
Well, thank you, Coach. This has been Mike Connor, head coach here at Silverdale Baptist Academy. Now we're going to send it back to the station. That concludes our first of our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee football spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. We mentioned the Silverdale Baptist Academy Seahawks will take on East Ridge in Week 1. That game takes place August 19th at Silverdale with a 7 o'clock kickoff. Just a reminder that Silverdale athletics are driven by Mountain View Nissan, and we want to wish the best of luck to all our schools. And a reminder that Mix 1041 and Mix TV, they are your Southeast Tennessee football headquarters, and we will see you next time for our next spotlight. Welcome back to our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee football spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we'll be spotlighting the Bradley Central Bears football team. Bradley competes in D1 Class 6A in Region 2, and they are entering their 107th season in program history, one of the oldest programs in the state. They have an all-time record of 629 wins, 440 losses, and 29 ties. That comes out to a 60% winning percentage, and they have one state title on their record. In district play, they are 142 and 141 all-time. They just broke over the 500 mark last season. They're looking for their 71st winning season in program history, and they're looking for their 8th straight in that category. They're also seeking their 18th playoff appearance and their 13th straight playoff appearance. They're 13 and 16 all-time in playoff matchups, but since 2010, Bradley has been very successful with a record of 89 and 49. Last season, Bradley went 9-3, 4-1 in district play. They opened their season with 8 straight wins before losing their last 2 games of the regular season, giving them an 8-2 regular season record. They would then host Jefferson County in the first round of the playoffs, who they would beat by 3 points, and then in the second round they would host Farragut, who they would end up losing to by 3 points. The Bears are led by head coach Damon Floyd, who is entering his 17th season as head coach at Bradley Central. He is the second longest tenured coach in school history, trailing only Jimmy Lovell, who spent 22 seasons at Bradley Central. Floyd began his coaching career at Bradley, where he spent 3 years as an assistant before taking the reins as the head man in 2006. In his career at Bradley Central, Floyd has compiled a record of 104 wins to only 74 losses. He trails Lovell by 18 wins for the most all-time in program history. Floyd has had 4 9+ win seasons in his career, and since 2010, he has only had 2 losing seasons. Moving on to the schedule for the Bradley Bears, they will open their season with 4 straight home games against Brainerd, Walker Valley, Cleveland, and McMinn County. All 4 of those teams Bradley beat last year, and the only team of those 4 Bradley does not have an all-time winning record against is Cleveland. Bradley's game against McMinn County in Week 4 will be their 100th meeting all-time. That is one of the longest rivalries in the state. All-time, Bradley has a record of 55 wins to 41 losses and 3 ties. After 4 straight home games, Bradley will travel to Hardin Valley, who they beat last year in their 3rd meeting ever, and then they will have a bye week after 5 weeks into the season before traveling to Bearden, who Bradley beat last year and holds a 6-3 record all-time against. Then Bradley will host 2 straight games against Ooltewah and Farragut, 2 teams that Bradley beat last year. Bradley against Farragut has struggled all-time with only 3 wins in 19 matchups, and then Bradley will end their season at Ray County and hosting Maryville. Those are Bradley's 2 losses last season. With all that being said, we are going to head over to Bradley Central to speak with head coach Damon Floyd. We are here at Bradley Central High School, joined by head football coach Damon Floyd. Coach, jumping right in, last season, it was your 7th straight season with 7 or more wins. What do you think the key has been to just having this successful run of just winning year after year after year?
Well, we've had some really good players. You know, you can't win football games without having good players, and I've been fortunate to be the head coach while we've had a lot of good players come through. So, you know, you have to have some breaks go your way, and I think the biggest thing that we try to focus on is obviously working hard and working together and being great teammates. And, you know, I would say those 7 years, if you probably look back, then those guys learned how to stick together through tough times. You're going to have tough times in football, but they played for one another, and they were great teammates.
Yeah. So you kind of hit on it there, but can you just talk more about the culture of this team?
Well, this one's still, you know, I say it's still building because we still got to start the season, but this is something we start every January, and we talk about a lot of little things about, you know, core values and things but you got to trust each other, and the only way you can trust each other is you got to earn it, and you got to go through things together, and that's kind of what we do in the January, February, and the off season in the weight room, and you know, now out here in the heat and the pads, and everybody in the nation's doing it. It's no secret, but we have a certain way that we like to do things, and like I just mentioned a minute ago, it's really about team, and we're just trying to be the best teammates we can be, and you know, you got to do your job every single play, and you got to win your individual battles, and bad things are going to happen. You got to overcome them, and the list goes on, obviously. Yeah. But you know, everybody's got offense and defensive schemes, so you got to execute those. But like I mentioned, it's really about doing your job on a consistent basis for the guy next to you.
So looking back a little at last year, you're losing some big seniors. I mean, starting quarterback Aiden McClary, Carter Howard, Josh Helsden, Gabe Campbell, and the list goes on.
Yes.
But first off, can you just speak about just the impact these guys had for the program?
It was huge. Taking Aiden McClary, who's an ultimate competitor. He's a three-sport guy. Doesn't really matter which sport he is. He usually goes out and performs and wins big games, and that's what he did as at quarterback. And he got thrown into a tough situation his junior year, and he handled it. Yeah. And then he came back his senior year, and it was unfortunate because there's 3-4 games where he had a really bad ankle turn and he couldn't even hardly move, and he still went out and played and got wins. So Aiden's just the kind of player you want to coach. He does everything the right way. He doesn't miss workouts. He works hard. He shows up every day. But we have a lot of seniors that way. Gabe Campbell really grew as his 4 years here and really became a dominant force. And Josh Helsden, who's now playing at University of Tennessee. Blake Johnson moved in and as a transfer and played well. And Braden Owens now playing at Sewanee. So that we're losing a number of really good players. And, it's time for these younger guys to step in and step up.
Yeah. So talking about younger guys stepping up, who are some guys that you see stepping up, not just at quarterback, but at the other positions where there's holes?
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Alex Walker. He'll be the starting quarterback this year, so he's got big shoes to fill. But he doesn't have to be Aiden McClary. He doesn't have to be Cole Copeland or Javen Burke. He's got to be Alex Walker. And he's got guys around him that can make some plays. And two of those guys that are new this year are Jarius Rogers and Demarius Ballard. They're both really special athletes, a little bit different type players, but they're both very athletic. They catch the ball well, and we expect them to make some plays. So the offensive line, obviously we mentioned, replacing Gabe and Braden, Alex Dayton, replacing those guys. We got some guys up front, Bryson Bivens, Eugene Peterson, Josh Leak, Jacob Page. So we got some battles going on there, and then, there's some on the defensive side as well. So got a lot of guys that's going to have to step up, and hopefully, as the season gets going, some of their names will be out there as some of the better players here at Bradley.
So last season, you guys ended sort of on a sour note with a tough little loss to Farragut. Is that one of those losses where you kind of just flush it away and forget about it, or is that one that sort of leaves a chip on your shoulder for this year?
Hopefully it leaves a chip on our shoulder. It wasn't a good ending. We started off really hot at the beginning of the season and then kind of faded towards the end. And there was reasons for that. You hate to make excuses, but reality is we had some injuries that we just couldn't quite overcome. When we played Farragut, there was points in that game where we were down 4 starters on the secondary, and it wasn't anybody else that went in and played. It wasn't their fault, but they're not having the experience that those first 11 games of the season. So obviously a disappointing way to lose the season, a close game in the second round at home. So it does leave a bitter taste in your mouth, and but it's a new year. So last year's last year, and we're really proud of a lot of things that senior class accomplished, and we don't really look back and remind them of it in practice or anything like that. We're just trying to work hard, and we have a saying around here, win the next rep. So we're moving on to whatever that next rep may be. We're going to try to win it.
So looking at this team, the young talent you guys have is crazy. I mean, Jackson Wilson, Marcus Gorey, Tito Williams. As a coach, how awesome is it to be able to look at these guys and be like, I got 2 more years to coach this young, talented team?
Yeah, when you sit back and put it that way, I don't really think about it necessarily that way because you're just focused on the moment.
Yeah.
And we do have some special, those guys you mentioned, they're special players, but more importantly, they're special people. Mm-hmm. They're leaders of our team, and they show up every day. They work hard. They're great teammates, and they're really talented. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, you talk about the games that we've won in the past. That's because you have players like that. And I think that's the good thing right now is players feel like they play here, they got to perform at a high level, and those are obviously some guys that do that. But those guys put in the work every day, and they're deserving. We talk about reaping what you sow a lot, and those guys work hard, so now they're reaping what they sow, other than the God-given ability that they have.
So we mentioned it's still sort of early, but how is the team looking through preseason, 7-on-7s, helmets and shorts, stuff like that?
Well, it's tough right now, and I think if you ask any coach, they're going to say the same thing. You just don't know yet until you go up against somebody else. One day you may look good on offense, next day you look good on defense, and those kind of things. So we're still trying to figure it out. We got a ways to go. We're nowhere near ready to play a football game at this point, and we got, I guess, 3 weeks before we have to be ready. But we got a lot of work to do. So right now it doesn't look very good. Yeah. We're still trying to get a whole lot better to even have a chance to compete on a Friday night. But I would imagine that most coaches probably feel the same way at this time of year.
So lastly, just how excited are you that we're getting closer and closer to football season every day?
Yeah, and I've been in this quite a while now, but it never gets old. This time of year, man, for me, it's nervous. I'm nervous, but I'm anxious. So the guys are working hard. They're doing what we're asked. They're being very coachable. So that's the fun part. But yeah, this is hard. You get out here in the heat, and you're having to wake up early in the summer and come do workouts and sweat and hit each other. So it's hard for them, but we're looking forward to the season.
Yes, sir. This has been head coach of the football team here at Bradley Central High School, Damon Floyd. The Bears of Bradley Central will open their season on Thursday, August 18th against Brainerd. That game will take place at home for Bradley, and it will be a 7 o'clock kickoff. Thank you for tuning in to our Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and we will see you next time for our next Spotlight. Welcome back to the Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we will be spotlighting Cleveland High School's football team. Cleveland competes in D1 Class 6A Region 2, and they are entering their 58th season in program history. This historic franchise has been very successful with an all-time record of 437 wins to 193 losses. That gives them a 70% winning percentage in their history. This program's also won 4 straight titles. They are 203-72 in district play, and they are looking for their 52nd winning season ever. They have only played 58, which means they only have 5 losing seasons, which is a very impressive number. They're looking for their 13th 10-win season all time, and they're seeking their 39th playoff appearance. In the playoffs, they have an all-time record of 38-33, but all this storied success has not carried over to recently. Since 2010, Cleveland is only 68-63 with a 51% winning percentage, which is far less than the 70% they have all time. Last season, Cleveland went 6-5, 2-3 in district, and made the first round of the playoffs before losing at Westridge on a game-winning field goal. Cleveland's defense last season led the way for them. They averaged 18 points allowed per game and held opponents to less than 20 points in 7 of their 11 contests. They're looking for their second straight winning season after 3 straight losing seasons. Their head man is head coach Marty Wheeler. He has had a 17-year coaching career, and he has an all-time record of 114 wins to just 71 losses. He started his head coaching career at Ripley High School, where he coached for 3 seasons before spending a decade at Covington High School, where he averaged nearly 9 wins a season. At Covington, Coach Wheeler had 4 11-win seasons and 5 state championships. Wheeler has not enjoyed the same success at Cleveland. He has compiled a record of 15-17 and has yet to win a playoff game. Moving into Cleveland's schedule, they will open with Red Bank, a team they narrowly beat last year. All time, they are 16-19 against Red Bank. They're looking to make it 17 wins this year as they open their season at home on a Thursday night. That game will be on mixtv.tv. They will then travel to McMinn County, who they beat last year. They have an all-time record of 37 wins and 19 losses. And then they will travel across town to Bradley Central, who they lost in heartbreaking fashion to last year. But they do have a leg up all time, having 7 more wins all time than Bradley. They will then host East Ridge, who they beat very handedly last year. They have an all-time record of 17-2. And then Cleveland will take their bye week 5 weeks into the season, before traveling to Farragut and traveling to Walker Valley. Both of those teams Cleveland beat last year. And then they will host 3 straight games against Maryville, Bearden, and Giles County. All 3 of those teams ended up beating Cleveland last year. And then they will end their season at Hardin Valley, a team that Cleveland has never lost to in all 3 of their matchups. With that being said, we're going to head over to Raider Drive to speak with head man of the Blue Raiders, head coach Marty Wheeler. We are here at Cleveland High School, joined by head football coach Marty Wheeler. Coach, last season you guys went 6-5, a big winning season for you guys. How do you build off that season and sort of bring the momentum into this year?
I mean, anytime you finish, with more wins than losses, when you're at where we are right now, trying to get this thing fixed, it's always nice to go into the off season. with that in mind. But, it was a tough end. We lost a really close game in the playoffs. It was tough. Had a great group of seniors last year. Really special group. Hated to see them, have to go out like that. But what they brought to this program to try to get it back, the stability back in it, and back where we want it to be, is really unbelievable. Just you hate to see guys like that graduate, but it happens, and so then you turn your focus to, the guys that are going to continue that, and so. I think it helps for sure, but we're really proud of what our guys have been able to do since that game in the off season and even through the summer. I think definitely we are without a doubt stronger than we've been since I've been here, which we should be. But I mean, we got a lot of guys that have gotten stronger since their first day in the program to now, where I don't know how much of that had went on prior to that.
So talking about the great work over the summer, but what does a season like last year and then all this work over the summer do towards building the culture of this program?
Well, I mean, it's expectations. You know what I mean? So I think our guys are. We've been here 3 years. I think they understand now. They've got a lot better idea of what the expectations are day in and day out, right? So it's and that's really what we're trying to focus on as we move forward is consistency. We have really good days in the weight room, and we have really good days on the field, but we need really good weeks in the weight room and really good weeks on the field. And how you do that is you just focus one day at a time about what we need to get done that particular day, and we want to just be better today than we were yesterday. And as long as you do that, then when you look up, eventually you're putting weeks, back-to-back weeks, and then weeks on top of weeks of good practices, good workouts, and then when those things happen, I mean, winning sort of just falls into place.
So you kind of hit on it earlier, but seniors like Destin Thomas, Tito Boyd, Tate O'Brien, Nick Nicodemus, Jonathan Morales, the list goes on for your big group of seniors last year. But just what kind of impact did those guys have on their 4 years here in this program?
Oh, I mean, like I said, just those guys are how much it meant to them, how much this football program meant to them, and being a Blue Raider meant to those guys. Really was special to see that. To see them, we got off to such a great start last year. Lost a couple of really close games down the stretch, and then we came up just a tad short in the playoffs. But their want to try to bring back the stability and put this program back on the right track completely to where it used to be. Was really I really enjoyed watching that and being able to be a part of that and coach them every day. They were a lot of fun to coach. But I hope what we're going to find out. We're about to find that out, Ryan, here pretty soon. We're about to get started, so we're going to find out if the things that a lot of those guys live by example. Mm-hmm. So we're going to find out if our younger guys and our guys that are seniors now, we're paying enough attention to be able to pick up where they left off. But the biggest thing about those guys, if you want to know how special they were, is several of those guys signed out of that senior class to go on to have the opportunity to get their college education and get it paid for by playing football.
So you talk about some guys that need to step up. Obviously, a lot of holes left, playmakers, especially on the offensive line. But who are some guys that have stepped up to fill holes in the roster, but also just in the locker room?
Oh, guys that come to mind as far as in the locker room, Drew Lambert, of course, he's been our quarterback for 3 years now. So he, I don't know if you would call it stepping up for him. He's just I think he's taking on the role as the main leader. Ethan Burns is another guy that's the leader for our football team. Both those guys are seniors, but there's some younger guys I've seen that you can tell that what this group that just graduated last year left behind is they've picked up on too. But up front, you're right. On the offensive line is going to be a huge key for us. The guys like Stonewall, Charette, Will Brantley, Neil Armstrong, Ronnie. Burns is also on that line. And those guys, how well they perform and how much they progress as we get going here from scrimmages into the season is going to play a huge role for us from an offensive standpoint and as a team. And so defensively, we got some guys got to step up at linebacker. We lost all of our inside linebackers, and guys like Cam Blockerby and Lamar Anders is back. Dylan Harold, those type of guys. Lucas Simborski's another guy. Mm-hmm. So that we need those guys how well they play at linebacker, and then we got some guys that are going to have to play up front and do their job to allow those guys to run and make plays. So a lot of factors they're going to have to, we're going to find out how well we are at those positions and how much they've learned, but they're going to play a huge role in our success.
So what are your biggest keys to coming out here this season and having another successful year?
Well, I mean, we need to be able to, we need to have a sense of urgency, first off. We don't need to try to figure out what's going on, try to wait, like we're trying to get in the deep end of the swimming pool for the first time. We need to dive right in and get busy. A lot of these guys have some game experience. I think keys up on the perimeter. We got some skilled guys that have some talent. And if we, that's the name of the game on offense. Anyways, getting the ball to your playmakers. But we've got several playmakers. We don't just have one playmaker, and we need to get the ball to all of our playmakers. We need to be able to run the football, and we need to be able to stop the run. And the people who play the longest are the guys that can run the football the best, and can stop it the best. So that's what hopefully this year we're looking to improve on our, how well we run the football, and continue to improve on how well we stop the run.
So lastly, you've been in football for a while. Just how excited are you that it's almost football season in Tennessee?
I mean, it's always exciting when it's football season. I mean, COVID's a great example of like when the thoughts of there what may not be a football season. I remember spending quite a bit of time wondering, like, what are we going to do? Yeah. If there is no football season, like I don't know how the South would make it, to be honest with you. Fortunately, we didn't have to deal with that. But, I mean, it's always exciting this time of the year. Not only am I excited about our football season, and I know our community is, but, I mean, I'm a college football fan. I get really excited this time of the year. And, I've been doing this almost 25 years, so that's a long time. And I get excited about football season. That hasn't changed. So as long as I continue to get excited about it, then I'm going to be out here doing it.
Well, this has been head man here at Cleveland High School, Marty Wheeler. Now we're going to send it right back to the station. Cleveland will look to have their second straight winning season, and they will open at home against Red Bank on Thursday, August 18th. That game is a 7 p.m. kickoff, and you can watch it right here on mixtv.tv. This concludes today's segment of our Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and we will see you back here next time. Welcome to our Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we will be spotlighting Walker Valley High School and their football team. They compete in D1 Class 5A Region 4, and they are entering their 22nd season in program history. Their first season was in 2001. All-time, Walker Valley has 73 wins to 149 losses. That is a 32% winning percentage. 0 state titles to speak of, 35 and 75 all-time in district play. They're looking for their 5th winning season in school history, but it would be their 2nd one in 3 years. They're seeking their 12th playoff appearance. They are 2-11 all-time in playoff matchups. Looking back at last season, Walker Valley went 5-6, 2-2 in district play. They won 4 of their first 5 games before dropping 5 out of their last 6. They would lose their first-round playoff matchup at Knox Carnes by 2 points. Walker Valley is led by head coach Drew Akins, who is entering his 4th season. Walker Valley is Drew Akins' first head coaching job. Previously, he had played quarterback at Boyd Buchanan, where he won a state championship game in 2003. He began his high school coaching career a few years later in 2009 before taking an offensive coordinator job at Red Bank, where he spent 3 years there before leaving to come up to Walker Valley. In his career at Walker Valley, Akins has a record of 17 wins and 16 losses. As of right now, he's the only head coach in Walker Valley history to have a winning record. Looking at Walker Valley's schedule, they will open at Notre Dame, who they played for the first time last year, and they came away with the win. They will then travel to Bradley and Ottawa Bradley beat Walker Valley last year, but Walker Valley bounced back to take a win from Ooltewah for their first win all-time against Ooltewah in 10 meetings. They will then host 3 straight games against Carter, Smith County, and Cleveland. Walker Valley picked up a win over Carter last year in their first meeting. They also picked up a win over Smith County before losing to Cleveland. They'll then travel and play a tough game at Ray County, who they lost to last year. They only have 3 wins in 17 meetings. And then they will have a late bye week before they travel to McMinn County, who Walker Valley has never beaten in 13 meetings. And they will host Upperman, who they lost to in their first meeting last year. And they will host Howard to end their season. A tough schedule for Walker Valley, a lot of tough away games at Bradley, at Ray County, at McMinn. But we will see how it goes, and we're going to head on over there now to speak with the head man of the Walker Valley Mustangs, Drew Akins. Ryan Lovelace here at Walker Valley High School, joined by head football coach Drew Akins. Coach, sort of jumping right in, you guys had a great start to your season last year. You won 4 out of 5, but then towards the end it kind of just faltered, kind of losing 5 out of 6. How do you come into this season with sort of not as much momentum as you would have liked from last year and sort of right the ship?
Yeah, it was definitely a great start when you look at how we, came out of the gate, beating a really good team with Notre Dame. Notre Dame's very much improved. I thought we played really well last year against Bradley Central. And then Ooltewah, we had a great game. Knox Carter, I think, was the best game of the year. And then we started getting some injuries. Cade Charter went down. Eli Dent went down. Bryson Farley went down. So, your best offensive lineman, your best defensive player, your best offensive player definitely put us in a bind, and we just weren't able to recover from that. So, going into this year, we look to, right that ship, trying to find a way to start the same way. But, I think we've done a lot of things in the offseason to kind of cure that. I think we as coaches did a poor job of making sure that we were peaking at the right time. I think we go back, hey, what was the best game we played? It was Knox Carter. That was game 4. Yeah. So when you peak game 4 and then you get injuries behind that, we just kind of lost momentum and lost energy within our program. I think we've done a good job this offseason of focusing more on letting them be kids. Yeah. We let them, we gave them Wednesdays off this past summer. We've never done that. We've always been 4 days a week. We were 3 days a week this past summer. So just giving them more time to go be a kid and make football more exciting. That way it's not so much a job when you come here. It's more exciting. So hopefully we see that pay off, that, it allows us to peak later on in the season instead of peaking so early. So we got the players to do that, and I think our players come in very energized. They're a fun group to be around. The chemistry's been awesome. So I think all those things can lead to, more energy throughout the year.
So more on a broader note, in the past 3 years, you came in 0-10 season before you got here. Mm-hmm. And in the past 3 years you've been here, you've won more games than you've lost. What has the culture change been like here at Walker Valley?
Yeah, it's so mental when you talk about big picture. Okay, what have we done over the past 3 years? When you look at, again, 0-10, but even before that it was 1-19. Yeah. For 2 years they won 1 game, and it creates this mentality that we're not supposed to win. So it's been a 3-year process of breaking that mentality. This is the first group that I've had all 4 years. Mm-hmm. The first group that I got them as freshmen, and they're going to graduate with me as well. And those guys, you can feel the program shift. You can feel that, hey, we're no longer that team that just goes in supposed to lose. It's going to be a great show at halftime, and then, we're going to get beat by whatever it is. That group understands, no, we come to work every day, and we want to be competitive in every single game. Our goal isn't to go win every game. Our goal is to go be competitive and give ourselves the opportunity to win. And that's a culture shift. And I think the biggest thing when you talk about big picture stuff, we have built such a mindset that when something bad happens, play the next play. When something good happens, play the next play. You can't go back and change. You can't go back and recreate things that have just happened. You've just got to go play the next play. And our kids are finally starting to understand that. Our leadership understands one bad play is not going to kill a game. Yeah. But if you spread those out, you let that bad play become the next play and the next play, our kids are starting to understand, like, put it to bed, and let's go play the next play. And hopefully we look up in the fourth quarter and we're in a competitive football game.
So last year, you guys lost some seniors that you mentioned were here for the 0-10 season and sort of saw the turnaround of this program. I mean, Ryan Lay, Spencer Jackson, the list goes on. Can you just speak just to what those guys meant to this program in their time here?
Man, incredible athletes. When you look at how many quarters, how many lettermen we had in that group, I could go on and on. Guys that were able to go to the next level and play. Kyler Parrish, you didn't mention. Jeray Finley showed up at a D3 just this week. Judah Green, you could go down the list. Port Chop, Jackson McGowan was such an influence on our offensive line. And you can just go player after player. And just, those guys kind of brought us from where we were into this mindset of just always being competitive. So proud of what Spencer's doing at Carson Newman, Aiden Gibson, what he's doing. Ryan Lay obviously had a great career, both offensively and defensively. When you look at what he did at quarterback last year, it kind of carried on a legacy of all-state quarterbacks here. Tucker was an all-state quarterback, Ryan is an all-state quarterback, and now it creates a legacy of, hey, Walker Valley quarterbacks eventually get to the point where they're an all-state quarterback. So proud of those guys. So proud of what they're doing now. Whether they went to college to play, whether they went to college, Aiden's playing baseball. We got guys that went straight into the workforce. Just guys that are going to make an impact in our community, a positive impact, and really proud that we're a part of this program and they can go in the community and spread those things.
So a lot of holes left. I mean, you mentioned it, just a really deep, talented senior class. So who are some younger guys that have stepped up so far to fill in those holes?
Yeah, when you start looking at what we've done this summer, we've really, I think we have 3 starters back on offense, so we're replacing 8 guys offensively. I think we have 5 on defense, so again, you're replacing over half your defensive starters. Obviously, Eli Denton is an older guy that we're going to lean on the defensive side of the ball, but we've seen some real progress, at our linebacker core from Noah Green. Noah Green's going to be a junior. He's really stepped up. Jacob Hollingsworth is probably going to start one of the linebacker positions for us. Really talented kid, and if he can find consistency, he can be a really good football player for us. You look on the back end at secondary defensively, Braxton Smith is a returning starter, Brady Montgomery's a returning starter, Tucker Owenby's a returning starter, and Blaine Lowe's played a ton of football. So I love our depth in the secondary. Josiah Shepard is giving us some great depth at corner. Roman Ulo's a freshman that's going to play corner for us. He's going to be in the rotation immediately. Aiden Burns probably will be in the rotation immediately as a freshman. Nolan Chabelle's coming on at safety. Really proud of what he's done. Zeke Garrison, a sophomore. So, you're talking about 8 guys that can rotate in the back end. So we're really excited about our back end. And then some upperclassmen that have stepped up defensive line-wise. Cameron Norwood has really shown up and had a great spring. It's carried on all the way through the summer. Offensively, man, the offensive line is going to look totally different. Yeah. We have 1 returning starter, but, man, the guys that we have coming back that have filled those roles are just big, physical kids that we're excited about. Riley Myers, Jeremiah Townsend is a huge kid and an all-state wrestler. Being able to wrestle has kind of made him grow up a little bit. Bryson Farley's back healthy, so we're excited to have him back. I tell you, Ty Parker has really stepped up his game. A young kid that we're expecting to rotate in. Luke Hawkins is another one, and then along with our 2 seniors with Gideon Van Dyke and Will Turner, our returning starter. So excited about that group. When they're confident, man, they move really well. When they're questioning themselves is when they play slow and they get beat. So we've got to make sure as coaches we're putting confidence in them. Quarterback's going to be the big one. It's always the big one in our offense. Quarterback's huge. So Evan Schwartzel takes over quarterback. Man, he's a talented kid. He's been super coachable. He understands what we're trying to get done. We've got to make sure that we just manage him, that we're not asking he's a first-year starter. So we've got to make sure that we don't ask too much of him early on. Let him get his feet wet. Let him get comfortable. But I think you're going to see as the year progresses, man, he's a really talented kid that can win some football games for us.
So I'm not saying sort of preseason is the litmus test for a team, but you've had your scrimmages, you've had your 7-on-7s, you've had your just workouts and stuff. How are you feeling about this team going into the season?
Yeah, we had a great scrimmage last week. We scrimmaged Cumberland County and really played well. I think we graded out as good as I've seen us grade out in a long time, going back into last year. We're going to find out tomorrow, hopefully, against Farragut, who we really are. So we're going to play Farragut. They're going to be a physical 6A program that has a chance to be really successful in 6A. And that same region that Bradley Central's in, and Cleveland and Maryville, you're talking about a loaded region that if we can hold up against them, man, I think we got a chance to be okay. When you look at us, again, I think we're going to go as we run the football. If we can run the football well, man, I think we have a real shot to be a dynamic offense. If we go back to last year's offense where we're really struggling to run the football, struggling to move guys off the line of scrimmage, man, that's going to be a struggle. Anytime you can't run the football, it becomes difficult offensively when there's no threat of that. Defensively, if we can tackle, stop the run. We make football so difficult. Can you block? Can you tackle? Yeah. And if you can do those two things, I think you're going to find a lot of success. Right now, if you ask me right now what I feel based on the preseason, I think we're going to beat the teams we're supposed to beat. I think the teams that are better than us, we're going to struggle with. And the teams that are 50-50, man, we're going to have a great competitive game. I don't know if there's anybody on our schedule that's just light years better than us. But if we don't show up to play, the one thing we have proven, that if we don't show up and play from the jump, that we're going to get behind really quick. And then when we wake up, we typically really competitive. So our guys have got to understand the second that foot hits the ball on kickoff, you got to be ready to go. And if you're not, you're going to fall behind really quick. So that's been the biggest learning experience this preseason, is just understanding you got to be able to go from the jump. And our kids have learned that, I think. And because of that, I think we are in a position to be competitive in every game.
So lastly, you've been in football for a greater part of your life. Played at Boyd Buchanan, you've coached Ooltewah, Red Bank, and now here. I mean, just how excited are you that hopefully it's going to cool down and it's almost football time here?
Man, there's nothing better. There's nothing better in football season for me. I know I grew up in it, like you said. I've been around it a long time. My dad's a head football coach. I grew up, I remember sitting in the living room with a VHS tape watching film with my dad and him rewinding and pressing play and rewinding, same play 10 or 15 times, and just the nostalgia of that. And, man, this game is so great. And it's not – it's just a game, and I get that. So wins and losses, I'm okay with wins and losses. I've learned that wins and losses are going to happen. What I love about the game is that it teaches young people how to become young men. Yeah. And that's what we use the game as. We use the game to say, hey, man, you're going to face adversity in this game. This game is going to give you adversity. Only one team in 5A is going to end their season with a win unless you're not making the playoff. You know what I mean? So not many teams get to end their season with a win. And once you hit the playoffs, only one team's going to end with a win. So if you make it all about wins and losses, man, it becomes a really frustrating game. If you make it about changing lives and growing young men, then it becomes something you can look back, you see success. Yeah. When I look back and I see Luke Anziano and I see how successful he is, that's why I love football season, because I know I have a new group that we get to teach how to become men, and when adversity hits, to keep pressing through that. And I always get excited about that. And, man, if it will cool down a little bit, I'm all the way in, because it's been hot. This rain's got to go, and then it'll feel a lot like football season.
Well, I think I can agree with you on the cooler weather.
Man, absolutely.
Well, this has been head football coach here at Walker Valley High School, Drew Akins. Now we're going to send it back to the station. Walker Valley will open their season at Notre Dame High School. That game will take place on Friday, August 19th with a 7 p.m. kickoff. That concludes our spotlight today on our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and we will see you next time for our next spotlight. Welcome back to our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we will be spotlighting Ooltewah's football team. And just a reminder that Ooltewah Athletics are sponsored by Chat Cars. With that being said, we will hop right in. Ooltewah's high school football team, they are entering their 68th season in program history. They compete in D1 Class 5A in Region 4. All-time, Ooltewah has a 48% winning percentage with 323 wins to 349 losses. Ooltewah has never won a state title in football. They're looking for their 31st winning season ever, though. They have been very successful recently. Since the turn of the century, Ooltewah is 168-89. In district play, they have struggled historically. They are right around that 500 mark with 132 wins to 144 losses. They have made the playoffs 18 times, and they are 22-18 all-time in the playoffs. They have made the state semifinals 3 times. They have lost all 3 times and have never made a state finals matchup. Looking at last season, Ooltewah went 2-8, 1-3 in the district, but that one district win was enough to get them into the playoffs, where they lost to eventual state champions Knox Powell. Last season, it was a struggle offensively for the Owls. They scored 7 or less points in 6 of their 10 games. The Owls are coached by head coach James Manning, also known as Goose. He is in his 2nd season as Ooltewah head coach, and he is looking to lead the Owls to their first winning season since 2018. Goose Manning played football at Ooltewah for 4 seasons until he graduated in 2011. In those 4 seasons with him on their football roster, Ooltewah went 32-14, very successful. After high school, he continued his football career and played quarterback at Carson Newman University. After his college career, he came back to Ooltewah High School and coached quarterbacks for 4 years before following former Ooltewah head coach Scott Chandler to Tyner. And then as the story goes, Ooltewah had a coaching position open up in the July before season last year, and Goose Manning, who was painting locker rooms at Tyner when he got the call, took the job to be the head coach at his alma mater. A great story, and Goose Manning, as I mentioned, is looking to lead his Owls to their first winning season since 2018. Looking ahead at their schedule, they will open their season hosting East Hamilton, a team they lost against last year, but they have enjoyed success against East Hamilton all time. They have won 8 of their 10 matchups. They will then travel to Red Bank, a team they did not play last year, but they have struggled historically with only 3 wins in 20 matchups. They will then host Walker Valley, who they lost to for their first time in program history last year. They are 9-1 all time. Then after 3 weeks, they will enjoy their bye week before traveling to Ray County, Baylor, Howard, and Bradley Central, a tough stretch of 4 road games, starting with Ray County, who they lost to last year. They only have 6 wins in 26 matchups. They will then travel to Baylor, who they have never beat. They are 0-3 against them with a loss last year. They will travel to Howard, which was their first win last year. They are 1-2 all time. And then they'll finish up their road trip with a trip up to Bradley Central, who they have played quite a few times but they have not enjoyed success. They lost last year and only have 14 wins in 35 matchups. They'll then host Soddy Daisy, who they lost to last year but enjoy a slight lead in their 46-game series. They have 25 wins all time. Then they will finish up their season with 2 more home games. They will host Brainerd, who they beat last year in 4 overtimes and are 8-5 all time. And they will end their season with a district matchup at home against McMinn County, who they have lost to last year and only have 14 wins. That's the rundown on Ooltewah. Now we're going to head over to Ooltewah High School to speak with their head coach. Just a reminder that Ooltewah Athletics are sponsored by Chat Cars, and you are watching the Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Now we're going to head over to Ooltewah. We are here at Ooltewah High School, home of the Owls, joined by head football coach, Coach Manning. Coach, coming in, you were kind of thrown in the fire last year. You were hired right around this time after dead period. You didn't really get a full offseason to prepare with these guys. How has this season just been different, having a full off season, a full spring, just preparation-wise?
Yeah, so I've actually been the head coach for 376 days. So it's been nice to, once we got knocked out of the playoffs and had a full kind of debrief session to talk to the assistant coaches and talk to some of the upcoming seniors and figure out kind of what we wanted this year to look like. And it's been fun. because we got, like I said, we got a full off season in the weight room, and then we got a full June where, last year we came in July and had to reinstall an entire offense. Now we got, we had all spring to do. We got a full spring practice. We got 11 practices in. Then we got to go, the full time in June, and then, now we're into July and didn't have to restart. It's been really good for our kids. And also, outside of football, we've been able to install some culture stuff, and it's been really good for us.
So can you just talk a little more sort of about the culture? I mean, obviously last season wasn't the most ideal season given this, but it was pretty good given the circumstances. But can you talk more about sort of how you've been able to build that culture back up? Yeah, so last year we put our seniors in a really tough spot, mainly because they had 3 head coaches in a matter of about 4 months. So they didn't really know where to go with it. They did a great job doing everything we asked, and tried really hard to be the cultural leaders that we needed to, and they did. They just didn't have enough time to do the groundwork on the front end, because sometimes when adversity hits, if you don't have a good foundation, that's where you slip a little bit. And they did it. They did exactly what we wanted to. Like, the record wasn't great, but we wanted to get to the playoffs and compete for a little while. And we just, we ran out of some depth and some issues we had early with COVID and things like that. And they didn't let it really. I want to say that they didn't let it tear them down. Like, they stayed. We had some trouble early, hit some adversity, and they continued to show up and battle every day. And that really set a good foundation for our guys this year. The record obviously wasn't great, but they did a good job in setting the foundation for us to start doing that this spring. So talking about some of those seniors that are leaving, a lot of really good athletes that are leaving, a lot of talented football players. Who has really stepped up? Just who are some players that have stepped up to fill the holes that have been left in the roster? So we've got our starting quarterback, A.J. Robinson, back, and then Dakota Jones, who played running back for us the last 2 years, has stepped up and really been the vocal guy that we needed him to be. A.J. is not that. He's a good leader and will do every single thing you ask, but he's not the vocal guy. And I don't, I try not to make the kids be something that they're not. And not that A.J. can't. He just isn't. He's gonna be a lead by actions type guy. Dakota's stepped up and been a vocal leader. Then you got guys like Justin Willis and James Clemenson. We've challenged him, and he's done a good job. Mason Arnold, Will Bolt, and Isaac Itofi, and some of those guys that are coming back on the offensive line, and then kind of on the defensive front, have done a really good job, kind of pulling us that way. And we've got a bunch of seniors that are doing a good job, but also our sophomores last year played 10 games. A lot of the defensive sophomores played 10 games, so now I'm leaning on them heavily because they've got junior level experience, So last season, sort of on the surface, it didn't look that good, but towards the end of the season, you guys started competing. You had that big 4 overtime win against Brainerd. So what are just some positives that you guys have sort of taken from last season? Well, so we really started playing our best football at the end, and that's there's a book of excuses, and I can name a bunch, but we really started knowing who we were going to have and not being affected with any COVID stuff and school stuff and all this. By the end of the year, we kind of hit, I don't want to say our stride, because we still were 1-3 or 1-4, whatever. But the Brainerd win, we had to gut that one out a little bit. We shouldn't have been in it, but that quarterback they had played the game of his life and was throwing passes and completing passes that he hadn't completed in a while. And it was probably the hardest person to tackle that I've ever seen. So he played great, and we had to gut that one out. And then we went to McMinn and probably played our best defensive game of the year. We had 4 missing starters that we had a guy get hurt every day of that week at practice. So we didn't have AJ. We didn't have Christian Doty. Lost a running back in the Brainerd game. So we were missing a bunch of guys. And still only lost to McMinn. It was 18-0, I think, but they scored with 30 seconds left. So I was really proud of the stride we hit, and then obviously the first round exit to the eventual state champion PAL. That's a good football team. So it's good for us to build off of. Like I said, we 2-8, but because of the way the TWSAA set up, we were 4th in the region, so we made the playoffs. And you're not going to take that away from us. We're going to hold on to that. And it's good for us to build on. So what's your biggest key to just returning to sort of the winning ways that this program's had in the past? It's work, man. There's no secret to it. Just got to get in here and work every day and try to get a little bit better.
and just lean on each other, establish some culture, and work. I mean, there's no secret motto to it, I don't think. I know we all try to dress it up and do our own things, but when it comes down to it, you got to get after it.
So you talk about that work. We're almost halfway through summer training. Just how have the preseason workouts, the lifting, how has just that been looking so far for you guys?
Good. Our guys have showed up every day and they compete. We've got them broken up into some squads, and they get points for attendance, to help with fundraising, to the actual squad competitions and stuff. And that's really fostered kind of this competitive spirit that we got going on. And like today, we didn't get to go to the 7-on-7, so we adjusted our practice schedule, went a little bit in the gym, and then played dodgeball just to flat get after it. So it's been fun, and they've handled it very well.
Yeah. So lastly, you've kind of been around football all your life. You played quarterback here. You went on and played at Carson Newman. So I know you're excited that we're getting back in the swing of things, but just how excited are you that it's almost football time?
Oh, I was telling the boys today, I hate 7-on-7 season. I'm the old quarterback, and I like to throw it around, but I love being able to put the pads on. Just probably like every coach, But man, I can't, and this is great, but I can't wait till that when all the football seasons converge, and it's you got football Monday night, and then you got a 2-day break. You got that Wednesday night action, and then it's the whole week. You got a game every night, man. That's really fun for us, and our kids are ready to go too.
Yes, sir. Well, we're looking forward to it. This has been head coach of the Ooltewah Owls, Coach Manning. This concludes our Ooltewah Spotlight. Ooltewah will open their season against East Hamilton on August 17th. That game will be played at Ooltewah with a 7:30 start time. This has been Ooltewah's Football Spotlight presented by Chat Cars on the Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and we will see you next time for our next Spotlight. Welcome back to our Mix TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we will be spotlighting McMinn County's football team, and just a reminder that McMinn County Athletics are sponsored by the law office of Stephen Hatchett. With that being said, jumping right in, McMinn County competes in D1 Class 5A Region 4, and they are entering their 98th season in program history. They have an all-time record of 456 wins to 390 losses and 23 ties. That gives them an all-time winning percentage of 54%. They have 0 state playoff titles, but they have been very successful in district and region play with a total record of 152 wins to 128 losses. They're looking for their 50th winning season ever, and they are seeking their 4th straight winning season. They're seeking their 23rd playoff appearance and their 4th straight playoff appearance. All-time in playoff matchups, they are 15-22 all-time. They've been very successful recently. Since 2019, they have a record of 27 wins to just 8 losses. Last season, they went 8-4, 3-1 in region play. They opened their season losing 3 of their first 4 before rattling off their next 6 regular season games and winning their first-round playoff matchup, giving them a 7-game win streak last year. During this win streak, they averaged a 17-point margin of victory. They would go on to win their first-round matchup, as I mentioned, against Oak Ridge by 7 points, but would then travel up to Knox Powell, and they would lose at the eventual state champion's house. The head man for McMinn County is Bo Cagle. He is entering his 16th season. Cagle graduated from McMinn County High School in 1995 and has been their head coach since 2007. Just recently in 2020, he was named athletic director at McMinn County High School, and a fun fact, he actually coached softball at McMinn from 2010 to 2019. In his career coaching football at McMinn, he has a record of 96 wins to 68 losses. He is looking for win number 100 at McMinn County High School this year. He has 9 7+ win seasons at McMinn County High School and only 6 losing seasons in his 16 completed seasons there. Looking ahead at the schedule for the Cherokees, they will open with their crosstown rival McMinn Central, who they have dominated just in the all-time series with 41 wins in 49 matchups. They will then travel to Cleveland, who they lost to last year. They will host Ray County, who they lost to last year. And they will travel to Bradley Central to face off in one of the oldest rivalries in the state. They will meet for the 100th time. McMinn lost that game last year. They will then host back-to-back games against Howard and East Hamilton, two schools that McMinn has not played historically. McMinn picked up their first win in their first matchup versus Howard last year, and they picked up a win in their third matchup against East Hamilton last year. Then McMinn will have a bye week, week 7, before hosting the combination of Sweetwater and Walker Valley. A fun note on the Walker Valley game, McMinn County has never lost to Walker Valley in 13 meetings. They will then travel for their last 2 games. They will go at Loudon and then at Ottawa to finish up their schedule. With that being said, we are going to head over to McMinn County High School to speak with the head man of the McMinn County Cherokees, Bo Cagle. Ryan Lovelace here at McMinn County High School, joined by head football coach Bo Cagle. Coach, just sort of jumping right in, last season was your 3rd straight season with 8 or more wins. How have you guys been able to just maintain success over the last couple years?
We've got a lot of good football players. 2 of those years had a really great running back. He set every record we have. Obviously, we've lost him. Piled on top of that last year our quarterback came in there and played well, but we've always had a great defense, and our defense really held up well. Hopefully we can do that again, and but you never know. You never know year to year. It depends on teams you play, but we've been very fortunate the past few years.
So I probably don't need to remind you, but last year a rough start, 1-3 out of the gate, but then you went on to win 7 straight before ending your season. So what does sort of a streak like that just do for the outlook on this season and just the culture in the locker room?
Well, we knew something like that could happen last year because of the front end of our schedule with Bradley, Cleveland, and Ray County, 3 out of our first 4, and it could happen again. Our goal is to keep playing better each game, build upon one game to another, not really worry about the scoreboard just yet. So if we can do that, we did it. We've done it before, so it helps you in the locker room say, look, if we get to that point and we're 1-3 again, we've been there before. We know how to overcome that, and we can still get all of our goals that we have in front of us.
So obviously the tough thing about high school football is every year you have some seniors graduating. So who are some seniors that have graduated, and just can you speak on what they've meant to this program?
Are you talking about this past year,
yes, sir.
the ones we don't have now? Yeah, really our lines. We lost 3 pretty good linemen with Jared Gable on the defensive line and Connor Bates on the defensive line. We lost several of those guys right there. We got a lot of skill guys back. Daniel Belt was a linebacker for us. Those guys really hurt us because of mainly the strength and depth of our line. Connor and the other one, they both play both ways, yeah. And so you're losing 4 positions by losing those seniors. So you got to replace those somehow.
So who are some guys that have sort of stepped up just to fill the holes they've left?
Well, we had 2 returning starters on the offensive line with Chenard. And Patton there, they returned on the offensive line. We've got a freshman moving over to one of our guards. We've got inexperience across through there. We've only got 1 returning starter on the defensive line with Aiden Wilson. So it's we're going to improve and get better. We've got folks that can do there, but we're very thin. We'll have freshmen playing, especially if somebody gets hurt. So we're very thin across the line. What we are, we're blessed with our skilled athletes right now. We've got skill, probably as much as we've had in a long time. So hopefully that'll make up for some of the difference on our lines.
So sort of transitioning, how do you think you guys have looked through preseason workouts, scrimmages, practices, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, I think we only had 1 practice where we've had a setback, where we didn't play as well or practice as well as we should have practiced. But I think we learned from that. Everything's a learning process, especially when you got a whole new team. You've got new teams. Each year it's a brand new team. So we had to learn to overcome, and we have. And from that point, we've gotten better each time we come on the field. Even when we scrimmage, we've gotten better throughout the scrimmage. We've We've gotten better throughout practice. So hopefully that is a trend that keeps happening. We're not playing our best game till our last game. The next game's always going to be better than the one before, and that's what we strive for.
So what would you say is your biggest key to just coming out and having another great season?
Well, I mean, it's arbitrary. We could have a great season and not win very many games.
Yeah.
You know, we can come out and play. We can play as good as McMinn County football has ever played, and we can be our best team we can be and still not win very many games. It's all arbitrary. It's based on the other team. So it's always going to be that way. It's how good the other team is and how well we play against them. But I've been a part of many games where we played the best we played in a long time, not won.
Yeah.
And I've also been a part of games where we didn't play very well and won. So those things are arbitrary really in our mind. We just want to come out and improve each time. And we're going to look at ourselves and how we're doing in the game and then look at the scoreboard at the end. If it's a win, it's a win. It's a loss, we're going to move on and keep playing next day.
So lastly, you've been doing this for a while. You just finished up, as you said, some maintenance on the field. But how excited are you that, it's almost fall and football's about ready to start?
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time of year. School starts. You got a new team. There's excitement all around. We start with our crosstown rival with McMinn Central, so the county gets a vibe about it, and it's getting really close. So it's a lot of fun. I know the kids love it. We get excited as adults, but it's really for them.
Yeah.
It's for them to have some excitement, play in front of their community, and show what we've done all off season.
Well, this has been head coach here at McMinn County High School. Now we're going to send it back to the station. The Cherokees of McMinn County will open their season on Friday, August 19th at home against crosstown rival McMinn Central. That game will kick off at 7:30. Just a reminder that McMinn County Athletics are sponsored by the law offices of Stephen Hatchett. But that concludes our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlight presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and we'll see you back here next time for our next Spotlight. Welcome back to the Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlights presented by Life Care Centers of America. Today we will be spotlighting the Hurricanes of East Hamilton and their football team. The Hurricanes compete in D1 Class 4A in Region 3, and they are entering their 14th season in program history, a relatively young program. All time, they are 75-71. That is a 51% winning percentage, and last season's successful season vaulted them over the 500 mark for the first time in school history. They have 0 state titles, and they have an all-time district record of 49 wins to just 33 losses. They're looking for their 8th winning season ever, but they are looking for their 4th straight, so a lot of success here recently. They are seeking their 10th playoff appearance. They are 7-9 all-time in playoff matchups. We mentioned the recent success. Since 2018, East Hamilton is 23-11. Last season, East Hamilton went 8-3 and were 5-1 in district play. Their offense was stellar last season. They scored 39 points per game and scored 6 or more touchdowns in 5 of their matchups. Last season, East Hamilton also set a school record for largest margin of victory, beating Sequoia by 70 points. They also had 2 regular season losses last year, and each loss was by 1 point. So East Hamilton was about 4 points away from having an undefeated regular season. Last season, they were upset at home, though, in the first round of the playoffs by DeKalb County. They lost that game by 2 touchdowns. The head man for East Hamilton is Grant Reynolds, who is entering his 4th season. He's only the 2nd coach in school history. Reynolds has enjoyed a 16-year coaching career, compiling a very impressive all-time record of 131 wins to only 62 losses. He started his head coaching career at Boyd Buchanan, where he spent 10 seasons at Boyd before heading to Alabama and spending 3 years at Madison Academy, which is right outside of Huntsville. And then East Hamilton has called him home, and he is entering his 4th season. At East Hamilton, we mentioned since 2018, East Hamilton is 23-11. 2018 was head coach Reynolds' first season. At Boyd, he had 5 10-plus win seasons and only lost 3 district games in 10 years. He has not had a losing season at East Hamilton, but he has yet to achieve a 10-win season. Moving on to East Hamilton's schedule, they will open at Ottawa, who they beat last season. They have not enjoyed success against Ottawa all time with only 2 wins in 10 matchups. They will then host Heritage from Georgia for their first meeting all time before traveling to East Ridge, who they handled last year, and they have a winning record all time against. And then they will host Sequoia. As I mentioned, they beat by 70 last year. They have never lost to Sequoia all time. They'll then have their bye week 5 weeks into the season before traveling 3 straight games. They'll travel to McMinn County, to Chat Central, and to Soddy Daisy. They lost to McMinn County by 1 point last year, but beat Chat Central and Soddy Daisy pretty handily. They will then host Friendship Christian Academy, a school they will be playing for the first time ever, and then they will end their season hosting Red Bank, who they lost to last year by 1 point, and Hickson, who they have enjoyed a lot of success against. They won last year, and they have 9 wins in 11 meetings. With that being said, we're going to head over and speak with the head man at East Hamilton, Grant Reynolds. We are here with head East Hamilton coach Grant Reynolds. And coach, just to jump right in, last season was your 3rd straight winning season. How do you sort of build off the success you've had in the recent years?
Well, we've had some good players the last few years, and we just want to continue that success and go a little bit deeper in the playoffs each year.
So what does sort of 3 straight winning seasons do for the culture of its program?
Well, it gets more kids out for football. You know, we've had more kids come out than we've had before. It creates some excitement in the community, and our community is behind us, you know, and our program and everything, and it just makes things fun.
So last season, a tough loss for you guys in the first round of the playoffs at home. Is that one of those that you sort of forget about, or is that one that you guys are kind of bringing a chip on your shoulder into this season with?
I think the guys kind of have a chip on their shoulder, you know, to try to go deeper in the playoffs than what we have been the last couple of years, and, you know, make that run where you're playing late into November.
So you guys graduated some really good seniors. Obviously, Flemons, I mean, just a stud, going to Austin Peay, went crazy at Spring Fling, just a great athlete for you guys. But what do seniors like him and others do for the program?
You know, I think they set good examples for the other kids, you know, when we have guys like that have good character, that play hard, they set good examples, the other kids want to emulate that.
So who are some guys that have sort of stepped up to fill the holes that have been left on the roster?
Well, we got Juan Bullard, a running back. Lake Clark is our quarterback that's back this year. Kyrese Willis plays defense for us. And we've got some offensive linemen back. Caleb Ledesma, our center's back. So we got some guys that are stepping up and filling some of those gaps.
So far this early season, how have you guys looked in practices and 7-on-7s and scrimmages?
I think, you know, we've been getting better each practice, each week during the summer and leading into the season. That's kind of how you want to be, is trending in that direction. And, you know, working against quality programs like Cleveland is only going to make us better.
So what are your biggest keys to just coming out and having another successful season?
I think staying healthy, you know, making sure that our kids understand it's a team sport, you know, we want to play together as a team and just win.
And lastly, just how excited are you that it's finally football season?
It's pretty exciting. It seems like it's been a long time, you know, since we've been able to strap on the pads and get to going. So I'm really excited it's football season.
All right, this has been head man of the East Hamilton Hurricanes, Grant Reynolds. Now we're going to send it back to the station. The Hurricanes will open their season on Friday, August 19th at Ottawa High School. That game will start at 7:30. This concludes our Mixed TV Southeast Tennessee Football Spotlight presented by Life Care Centers of America. I'm Ryan Lovelace, and hopefully we will see you next time right here at mixedtv.tv.